Hi, Dave Roscoe here. The question that I want to explore today, how can the Pi core team spend the Pi that they have, whether that be from their own allocated funds or from one of the wallets allocated for ecosystem improvements and things like that, without crashing the market? They have accounts set for this, but as we know, fear is high and everybody watches these wallets like a hawk, and any movement would cause a panic. I will be discussing how this can be accomplished and hopefully avoid any disastrous panic selling or market crashing. Before I get to the metrics for today, I just want to send a shout out to Milkshake Maddie. He's a relatively new content creator on YouTube, but he's certainly no stranger to Pi. He's been putting out content for quite some time and has a very large following on TikTok, and just recently moved over to the YouTube platform. And he announced that he's finally reached the point where he can monetize his YouTube account. So congratulations, Maddie. I think that's great news. I think the content that he puts out is really good. He's a high energy type of person, and he's got a really cool accent, and his content is no nonsense. So I think you should check him out. And by the way, I'm not being paid for this endorsement. So let's talk about the metrics today. The circulating supply is 6.8 billion. We don't see movement there just because it's below the hundreds of millions threshold, which is part of the problem, I think, because yesterday the migrations were only around 1 million migrated Pi in the last 24 hours. That doesn't make a lot of sense because there's over 12 million in the migration wallet. Hopefully it'll pick up today. Migrated unlocked rewards were at 1.734 billion, which is up only 294,000 from this time 24 hours ago. So we have 292,000 more unlocked Pi free to be traded on the open markets. And as I mentioned, there's 12 million Pi in the migration wallet for the Pi Foundation. So there's a lot of room for improvement today. Let's take a look at the price action. The Pi coin is holding relatively steady. As you can see, the chart indicates quite a sideward movement. I don't mind that at all. Sideways movement usually indicates accumulation. It can go either way at some point, whether that be up or down. Maybe we'll get some good news and it'll go up, or maybe we'll have something happen that will panic people and it'll go down. But overall, I think this is good considering the current market that we're in. The market cap is at 3.99 billion, which is up 3% from yesterday. And the trading volume is at 248.45 million, which is down 39% from this time yesterday. I want to move on to user comments. We've got some good ones today, and one of them leads into the main topic that I want to talk about. This user says, "No news is good news. I like your videos because you post even when there is no news. Other channels have been quite quiet lately because there ain't much news, good or bad." Well, I'm glad you think so. You know, I try to find something to talk about every day. I try not to have it just be filler, but there's something about, I think, hearing about, a topic that you're interested in daily, even if there isn't much going on, because otherwise you kind of feel abandoned or alone. So I'm glad you appreciate it. I hope others do too. I'll continue to put these out daily, even if I don't have a lot to say. And there's nothing wrong with a short video. Some people said they might get tired of listening to me, and that's possible, but we'll see. Thanks for the comment. Some of you caught my mistake yesterday, and Spearhead Financials here did. He quotes me as saying, "Bitcoin is down to $76 as of this morning." This was from yesterday's video. "I was about to hit up the dark web and sell a testicle to buy Bitcoin at that price. And you know what? You and me both, buddy. I would have sold both. I don't need them. But yeah, that was a big mistake. And the funny thing is, when I originally recorded it, I said 76 cents. So my brain is in the Pi price range, and I corrected it to $76, and it's still wrong. So yeah, quite a few of you caught that. I hope nobody actually sold any organs on the dark web to scramble and buy Bitcoin. What can I say? I don't like Mondays. So this user says, "Hi Dave, I look forward to your video every day and I enjoy watching it carefully. Maybe because you somehow fill the void of information from the Pi Core team, which all pioneers have somehow missed throughout all 6 years of our faithful mining, and especially after March 20th. Yeah, I agree. I'm interested in your opinion. Where is it better and safer to have Pi coins? In the Pi wallet or in the Pi wallet on one of the crypto exchanges?" And this is a good question. It depends. The benefit of having Pi coin in the Pi wallet is that it can be used directly within the ecosystem without any other movements and fees and all that involved other than transaction fees from Pi itself. There isn't a lot to do in the ecosystem right now, so that's kind of a weak argument. That's not going to be the case forever. With people reporting issues with exchanges transferring Pi from exchanges back to wallets, that could be a problem. With the Pi DAO swap exchange coming soon, I hope, the impetus to move to a centralized exchange in the first place will be greatly reduced. It'll work directly with your Pi network wallet, so why move it? And there's also talk that the Pi Core team is working on ecosystem applications that would work directly with their wallet, so it would make sense to keep it there. That would relegate the centralized exchanges mostly as an on and off ramp for people who want to buy into the ecosystem or sell some of their Pi and get off. So it's a good question. I think the biggest reason not to keep Pi in your wallet is security. In general, I think the exchanges have a higher level of security for their wallets, and the Pi app does not. That won't always be the case. And I don't know if security alone is a great reason to move it out. It is a reason. So thanks for the comment. I have my Pi wallet address in the comments, usually as a pinned comment and in the description. And some people have sent me Pi donations. Now I'm showing you this one in particular because if you look at the memo, it's first off, it's 2 Pi, which is the amount that I was complaining about yesterday with my PiNX US fiasco. The memo says filtered as spam. I wonder what this person said that had their comment filtered. I imagine it's something rather humorous. Well, unless it's like, screw you, Dave. I don't think so, because then donating would be an interesting way to make a point. That sounds like it could have been fun. But with regards to donations, some people have sent me donations and I appreciate it. And thank you very much. And if you think about it, this is kind of using Pi the way it was meant to be used, sending transactions of Pi between users. And to be honest with you, donations through YouTube are problematic because a lot of fees and whatnot get taken out, and the content creator doesn't really get a lot of that. Pi donations are a great way to get around that and contribute directly to your content creator. So thank you. Now, this final comment here brings up 2 points. One is, as my channel grows, I'm finding that I spend a lot more time answering comments. That's not going to last forever, unfortunately. And I know it's coming, and I do apologize in advance. But I especially can't get into long, detailed chains of discussion in comments because that just compounds the issue. But this user brought up a great question. I'm not going to read all of this, but the Cliff Notes version is they ask about the billions of Pi that the Pi Core team has that are sitting in wallets and in theory meant to be earmarked for improvements to the ecosystem. Can they and how can they be used to improve things like KYC and migrations and and just general improvements to deficiencies that exist today? And that's a great question. And I went back and forth with this person a little bit, but it was kind of a surface answer. And I'm not sure if it was satisfactory or not, but I decided that I'd make today's episode about this exact topic. Now, it's not going to be a deep dive, but it will give more information about how the Pi Core team can actually use their Pi without crashing the market. So thanks for this comment and giving me the segue into my show. So as I just mentioned, my topic for today is how can the Pi Core team spend their Pi without crashing the market? Now, as we know, the Pi Core team has $20 billion allocated to them. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. Go build something and then see what you feel about people complaining about your compensation. It's easy to complain. It's really hard to create. There's 10 billion Pi allocated to improving the ecosystem. That's a lot, 10 billion Pi. And then there's 5 billion Pi allocated to a liquidity pool. Now, using that 10 billion, forget about the 20 billion allocated to the Pi Core team. That is on a vestiture schedule, and we don't know what that is yet because they haven't published it. And that's part of the complaint about the transparency of the Pi network. But at some point, they're going to have to. There's no way around that. But they don't get that 20 billion right away. So even if they wanted to, they couldn't just dump it on the market. That would be illegal. But the 10 billion is available for investing into the ecosystem. Now, the Pi Core team has said that they want their platform to be decentralized. They're very limited right now with what they can do because anything they do will be highly scrutinized and criticized and could have a catastrophic impact on the market. The only real way that they can use this money is to decentralize so that we have community governance over when and how that money gets used and what it's approved to be used for. But we're not there yet. Forget about all that. Let's assume that they have the ability to do this, and we want to talk about how they can do it. Obviously, if they were to say nothing and suddenly make a large transaction out of any of these wallets, it would cause panic and tank the price. And that would very likely signal the end of the Pi network. The most important thing that they can do is be transparent. And it's not something that historically has been their strong point, but they don't have a choice. They need to communicate their intent in advance and publish a roadmap detailing how much they want to spend, how it will be used, and what the end product and benefit is. And this has to be done in advance. They could do things like proposing community approval or governance approval. They need to disclose the vesting schedule for their funds, how it vests over time as the project progresses. Another way that they can do it is with an over-the-counter sale or OTC. And what this is basically, rather than letting the Pi get sold to the open market, they sell it to a third party, say another exchange or some other investor, in exchange for a lump sum of fiat currency. This prevents that coin from getting onto the market and potentially impacting price negatively. The way that you combat the negative impact of the transfer or sale itself is you lock up the Pi, either in bulk or with a staggered series of smart contracts which release that coin to the purchaser over time. And this allows the Pi Core team to liquidate a significant amount of Pi and use that to fund their goals. Now, again, this alone is probably not enough to prevent a panic. They still have to communicate why they're doing it and what they're going to use the money for before actually pulling the trigger on something like this. Another thing they can do is a managed sell-off. They could make a schedule of smaller sales and tie that to positive events within the ecosystem where Something good happens. They roll out some new feature. And by the way, we're going to spend a little money to do the next big thing, or tie it to project milestones. And this will help offset the panic, right? Give a little good news and give a little bad news, and hopefully it balances out. Now, another way they can do it, and this is the decentralized way to do it, is to delegate it to a treasury or a DAO. Now, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. It's run autonomously on smart contracts. Now, I mentioned PiDAO swap. Now, it's not really PiDAO swap. It's just spelled that way, and that's how you think it would be pronounced. But it's really PiDAO swap. And that's what it is. It's products like this are decentralized autonomous organizations. And they're autonomous because they don't run by people pushing buttons and making decisions. They run on smart contracts. What happens within those smart contracts is governed by a community. As I mentioned yesterday, PiDAO Swap is selling tokens for membership onto its governance board. And those are the people who represent the community and will make decisions on what happens. Now, the founder or the project wallets can be transferred to an organization like this. They propose how they want to use the funds, and the governance board votes on these proposals. And that's how ultimately things need to happen. The path to spending PiCoin by the founders for any reason is tricky. There are good ways to do it. There are bad ways to do it. And those bad ways can be catastrophic. And I don't think they're going to do that because the PiCore team knows what they're doing, despite what you may have heard. To the best of anyone's knowledge, the PiCore team has not liquidated any of its Pi. I'm not interested in hearsay or speculation or what you heard from Joe down the street or some other content creator. If you have proof, great. But there are a lot of eyes watching the PiCore team's wallets. And if there was anything significant happening, it would be big news. This was a really good question, and I really couldn't get too deep in the comments. So I threw this together to present the broad strokes of how the PiCore team can safely spend the Pi that's allocated for the purpose of compensation to the founders and expansion and improvement of the ecosystem. Now, speaking of comments, as I mentioned before, responding to comments is taking an increasing amount of time as the channel grows. Now, if I don't respond personally to comments or provide detailed, complete answers, don't take offense, right? Think about this. My main content is the video. And if you have questions or comments based on the video, then you will get preference in my response. If you're just using my comment section to ask random questions or to complain about the same old things everyone else is complaining about, then chances are I'm not going to respond. I may give you a like if I like your comment, but I may not engage with you because it's not related to the topic of the video. In the future, I'm thinking of setting up a membership tier. What a membership does is it allows me to focus on a smaller group of the community who are serious about the topic that I'm talking about and engaging with me directly if that's their goal. The responsibility I have is to come up with a greater value to make that worthwhile. And some of the things that I'm considering is a weekly live stream where we do live Q&As and open discussions, and maybe even having a live guest or two. Tell me what you think about that in the comments. If there'd be any interest in a membership where you can have a deeper engagement with myself and commentary that I provide on the Pi network. That's all I've got for today. If anything breaks during the course of the day, I'll be sure to hop on here and let you know. But until then, don't panic, stay the course, and remember, the success of the Pi network begins with you. Pi to the moon. Peace.